Well, no, go look at your email.
All right, I did not get it.
Okay, but you should have it. I'm very, it's very excited about it.
Was he
Now
giving
you-
Shia Shabbos services? Or he gave Shia Shabbos?
Yeah.
No, in other words, he may not give because
This month, this shop. Yeah, no question.
I need my spaces as well.
He already had a sheet.
That's good. Yes, okay. Some left? No.
right.
I mean, he changes in like
Everybody's there always. I never.
big boy. And then he did.
No, they don't have finish. I don't know if she's in your I saw someone like on Russia like trying to get in. They made it out of his window. They were out there against them.
Maybe you'll find it slightly
They're sick. Now it's summer.
Where you staying in? Is that okay? You do for Shabbos also?
shows and I'm wondering if you'll
Serious? That's it. Did you get some?
my uncle is a regional agency for us.
You went to Israel also?
Excuse me.
Yes, sir.
Yes, I've got a copy of this book, but it's much thinner. Is there an addition?
One,
This book to
no,
build.
there's a one they use for writing up there, and there's one they give away for free. That was made.
I'm saying, is this
This is
got any
small.
addition? Just it's much thicker,
Yeah,
but
there's one that they made just to give away, like a teaser. This is
this is the real deal.
This is the real book, but
Around 2 minutes.
they're around.
Same size. Therefore,
There's one they learn with that, stays in the shul when they give it class.
Baruch atah Adonai Kol Nidibro.
Amen.
Wow, I didn't think so. Oh, maybe.
So
No,
Yes.
Jay, is there water there?
Yeah.
Is there
Yeah, there is. Someone covered it.
Now.
So you do, what's the joke that you do?
No, I know. No.
Oh, no shit, you're here. What's that? Yeah, sure. Absolutely. Hold on. Yeah.
You send them chorus for
Yeah.
this
Yeah. No, usually to like today now. So remember. Number.
506
He texted me the night before.
Make sure you get it.
Just random. How like 3 days?
You can send it to me and I'll give you an invitation to join.
Whatever.
What's your last name? Okay, nice to meet you. Pleasure. All right, you should see if you get the send out. You can go off that napkin over where he's whatever.
We're on page Kuf Lamed, Ayeka. This is a very, very important basic limud. Understand what Pnimius of Bechir Chavshus is. Everything in our Avodas Hashem in our lives depends on understanding this, on living with this. Where does a person's ratzon come from? And how is a person, how are we different than the rest of creation? We're also Nivraim, this is what we've been talking about. And there's the whole chiddush of what it means to be Tzelem Elokim, B'chal, B'frat, to be Jews. Page Kuf Lamed, Haratzon Eloki Hazeh. Haratzon Eloki Hazeh. What is unique about men is that we carry, each one of us carries within us a chelek elokah mimal. We carry within us a chelek elokah mimal, mamish, and that chelek elokah mimal means that the same way that Kivyochel Hashem is not bound by the Seder Hishtalshlos of creation, of Ilah V'ol, of cause and effect, and he's not contained by any rules that are meshabed everything that exists, from an atom to an atomic bomb. Because Baruch is not meshubed to anything. So the remarkable thing about us is that we also have within us this rotzen that is not part of the chain of cause and effect, which allows us, which gives us the privilege and the responsibility of being Bali Bechira. It's scary. It's a huge responsibility. It's much easier to be an earthworm. But we have within us, we carry within us this rotzen that's unbound and unlimited. Because the makor of our rotzen is elokus. It's not biology. It's not the environment. It doesn't mean to say we're not affected by all of these things. But our bechira is not imprisoned in that world of cause and effect. Not science, not math, not statistics. Kach Melamed Rav Kook. Shiratzon Adam who needs sights. These are the words of Rav Kook. That Ratzon Ha'adam, the Ratzon of a person, is nitzotz echad mi'ashal heves hagadola. It's one spark of that great fire, that flame of the infinite. Shal Ratzon Hashem. When you learn Rav Kook's Siddur, especially when you begin to you learn the Hakdama, the introduction to his Siddur, Arlish Raya. It's all about Ratzon. All of davening depends upon believing in this reality that within me there is a Nitzaitz Echad Me'ashal Havas HaGadol. There is a spark of the infinite fire of Hashem. Klema Shviv v'Nitzaitz Ma'oser Ratzon Gadol, a spark of that great Ratzon, Shemamali and Machaya es HaMesias Kula, that fills and gives life to all of creation. Al Pi HaMashal El, this is the mashal that we learned last week. Shiratzna Hashem, of course, like all mashalim, it's a mashal, but it can only do so much. But still, the mashal is Shiratzna Hashem mashal l'mekarin shemakrin tmuna al mesach. So we learned last week that the Ratzna Hashem can be compared to somebody who's projecting a film on a screen. And the projectionist is continuously running this projector. It's not that he puts on the button and presses the button and walks away. He's constantly running the film. And if he's not there, if the film is not being projected, so then there's nothing on the screen. All of creation, all worlds, all of creation is the film on the screen. We're living, all of creation is on the screen. We don't feel like that. We spoke about that a little bit last week. Mm-hmm. We don't feel like that, but we are. But there's one exception. There's one exception that's not pre-recorded, even though we don't understand how that works, and we'll never understand it in this world. But the Ratzon Hashem is not, the Ratzon Ha'adam is not a Eino Chelik Me'atamuna. One exception is the Ratzon of a person's will, what a person wants. From the time that I was very little, my father used to say to me always, over and over, "You can't control what happens to you. That's up to Hashem Yisbarach. You could only control how you feel about what happens to you." That was the message I got from when I was very little. And you have to keep on playing that over and over and over, because what happens to you is the film. There's a world of Yediyas Hashem, and there's a Seder in the world. But the Ratzon of a person is Eino Chelik Me'atmuna. But what you want is not a chelik, is not something that's recorded and projected. El Nitzaitz Me'hamekarin. It's actually a spark of the one who's projecting the film. So you're not from the Metzias of the screen, you're from the Metzias of the one who's running the projector, who's running the film. Hu shavir mitoch alumas ha'or, shemetziges atmuna ala mesach. A person, a human being, is a piece of that ray of light that is being projected onto the screen. Another similar mashal, which I've used to explain the meaning of the spheres and Tzimtzum many times over the years, is the mashal of electricity. The Ratzon of a person is a piece of that electric current that is running to all houses. The Ratzon of a person is not like one of the appliances in those homes. So there could be in the city millions and millions of homes, and tens of millions hundreds of millions of all kinds of appliances, refrigerators and heaters and so on and so forth, all kinds of appliances. And all of these appliances are alive because of the electricity that's running in them. So one way of looking at yourself, which is the way of those who do not believe in Elokus, and that man that man contains within him this Nitzos Elokus. One way of looking at oneself is that you're a more advanced appliance, that you're an appliance. So there's a refrigerator, there's an air conditioner, there's a vacuum cleaner, and there's you. And what's the difference? The difference is that the vacuum cleaner is working better than you. The difference is that you're more sophisticated, more chashuv. So now that they have computers, appliances not. When we were growing up, these were the appliances. There was a television, there was a radio, there was an air conditioner. Those were the appliances. Now you have robots. This was in the cartoons when we were growing up. This was in science fiction. So that now there are robots, and now there's this whole thing of artificial intelligence and somebody wrote in the journal with the dinner or something. My wife showed me that the ladies had their supperette or something for dinner. So one of the ladies wrote about who she's thanking, and she says, "I want to thank Chat TV. How do you say? Chat GPT. Chat GPT. I want to thank Chat for writing this." She thanked it. So we're living at a time that this is really very, very sophisticated. So people are already beginning to look at themselves as being less chashuv. I was always more chashuv than a refrigerator. I was more chashuv than a vacuum cleaner. But now they're making things that I have to ask. I'm trying to get eitzah from. I'm Mikshol eitzah from this computer. I'm asking for an eitzah. I'm asking this to write me a term paper. I'm asking the computer to be somebody he wants to propose to his girlfriend, and he's asking the computer. He's asking the computer, what should I say to my girlfriend? She's 5'2", eyes are blue. Coochie, 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 coo. There's no song like that. I'm in love with this girl. I want to really, really impress her with a gewaldige, I want to make this of a lifetime. Please, oh God, of GTP, can you please write me something that will be so chashuv that this girl will be dumb enough to marry me, and then just press a button. You just tell a little bit about the girl, tell a little bit about yourself, and voila. Yeah. So this is more chashuv than me. Varaya, I'm asking for aces. So it's more chashuv than I am. So to be able to understand, to remember that this is just a screen. It's a very, very remarkable thing. It is, but it's electric. It's electricity. It's an appliance. It's an appliance. It's just a chashuv appliance. That's all it is. It's just an appliance, and you could take some little simple person off the street who doesn't know how to add or subtract. And he has within him a nitzaytz elokus, a chelik el-kamima. He's a bal b'chir. The appliance is not a bal b'chir. It doesn't have a rotzen. They're talking about this. These are. I don't follow all of this, but I've heard from different people that they're trying to that kilu to give the impression kilu that the machine is itself a bal b'chir. That has b'chir. It's not possible. That will never be. It cannot be. It's about b'chir. It can be programmed to make certain choices. That's what it does. So it can be programmed to make choices. These are the following. This is the mitzvahs. These are the choices. Or whatever. I don't know how they do this. How they make these things, but it's safkosov. It's an appliance. And the haraya. What's the haraya? So if you have on your phones this the chat GTP, I get mixed up. What does it stand for?
GPT.
GPT or GTP? GPT. What does it stand for? You have to check on the GPT to see what it stands for. It's bizarreness. You have to ask what do you mean? What do you stand for? So if you want the surest raya, the best proof that you're more chashuv than the GPT. That you're more, if I would know what it means, I would be able to say it right. That if you want a raya that you're more chashuv than the GPT, take out the battery.
Generative pre-trained transformer.
That's why we say
GTP. So you could just pull out the plug. Just pull the plug and the thing will go. And here it's giving you your term paper. And my final proof for this theory is it's gestorben. It's gone. It's gone. Like I told you, the conversation I heard these two girls in the Bungle Colony years ago. That this girl was saying that my baby died, and the other one said, "Why don't you just recharge it?" No. Plug her in. Yeah, just plug her in. This is how the new generations. Just put the plug in. Put it back in the plug. The wire back in the plug. The mitzvah is that it's an appliance, and if you take out the battery from your phone, it has nothing to give you. It's totally blank. But if they take you, and chas v'chulula, they put you into a difficult matzav, you begin to become alive. You begin to see who you really are. You can take out the plug of a human being too. Chas v'shalom. There are people that do that. Human beings are all hooked up to machines and they pull out the plug. Hashem Yirachim. It's murder. That person is still alive. It's just that in a different mitzvahs of life, a much more sophisticated mitzvah. Because right now we're in a very primitive state of existence, but the neshamas and Olam aliens, it's much more sophisticated. But when you take out the battery of the telephone, it knows nothing at all. You could bang on it and say, "Tell me what's 1 + 1." I don't know. You can't even say I don't know. There's nothing. It's a goylem. That's all. It's just a goylem. So there's an electric current. It's coming from the plant, and that's giving chiyas to all different kinds of appliances. But it's one koch. It's Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad. It's an itzaitz of Elokus, and in us it gives life to the eyes, to the ears, and to the arms and legs. But he says it's one. He says, there's a very big difference between the electric current and the appliances. The electric current is the chiyas itself. The appliances are the beneficiaries of this chiyas. So the refrigerator is shkoyach, the vacuum cleaner is shkoyach, but they're just the beneficiaries of it. So this person who never passed the test in his life, he puts the battery into the phone. The phone says, shkoyach, you're mechayim, you should know that. Mama should mechayim, what you did for me, you put the battery in, it's mechayim. Now we can talk. You say, I'm not interested in what you have to say, you take the battery out, you're finished. That's all it is. Nothing more than that. He says, all of the appliances are enlivened by this zer machashmal, so the appliance has in it a spark of that chashmal, of electricity. It has a little spark of that, of something that's much bigger than itself. It has in it a spark of something that's much greater than itself. But nobody thinks about that. As long as it's plugged in. But nobody thinks about that's the makor of its life, and that it has in it a spark of something that's unbelievably greater than itself. Everybody thinks of the computer as being much greater than the electricity, and that's how people think about God, about everything else in life. And that's where gaiva comes from. That's where conceit comes from. The truth is, it's only a chelik kot mizerma chashmal atzma. Kol prat b'mitzias hu totzar shel ratzon Hashem. Everything that exists is created by the ratzon of Hashem. Akadei kach, that I'm sure that you remember that the tzaddikim bring down, the Matchila from the Dvarim and other tzaddikim bring down, that there's a famous thing about the Baal Shem HaKadosh, that he was talking about this inyan with the tzaddikim, with his talmidim outside. It was a beautiful day. They were sitting outside. And he was talking about this inyan, and the Baal Shem HaKadosh said that Akash Baruch Hu's mashgiach on every blade of grass, when it turns to the right and the wind returns to the left. It's all from the Ratzon Hashem that should turn to the right or to the left, and that it's the Ratzon of Hashem for a leaf to fall down, and exactly what time that leaf would fall down and where it would fall is all 100% the Ratzon of Hashem. That's the Ratzon of Hashem. So one of the tzaddikim was thinking about this, and he was on his madrega. He was struggling with this, and at that moment, the Baal Shem HaKadosh pointed and said, "You see over there, there's a leaf that just fell down." Baal Shem said, "You're going to turn over the leaf, pick up that leaf." He told that student, he read his mind, and he told that chassid, that tzaddik, he told him, pick up the leaf, and when you turn it over, you're going to see that there's a little caterpillar. That little caterpillar was suffering from the heat of the sun, and it cried out to Hashem, and Hashem sent a leaf to help it. And he went and he turned over the thing, there was a little caterpillar on the bottom of the leaf. That it's the Ratzon Hashem. So, we think, how could he be busy with stuff like that? So I'm davening to him and he's busy with caterpillars. I wish he would listen to me like that. He is. And he has a hanagah with us because we're Bali Bechir, we're Bali Ratzon, the caterpillar's not. And even when the Baal Shem said the caterpillar is crying, it doesn't mean like Bechir, it means that its Metzias is suffering. And for whatever reason, Hashem Yisbach, his Ratzon was to help that, at that moment, to help that little bug. But everything is Taitzah Sheratzon Hashem. Ach Ratzon ha'adam hu nitzaitz mei Ratzon atzma. But this is what makes man different. That the Ratzon of a person is a nitzotz of that electricity, of that electric current. It's not an appliance. It's a piece of that. It's a spark of that electric current of the Ratzon of Hashem. Nitzotz ach Ratzon hadam hu nitzotz mei Ratzon atzma. A person has to learn. We're going to continue learning more and more about this. But a person has to think. If you think about this very, very, very deeply, it has to change your life. It changes one's life completely. Not just to say, yeah, it changes a person's life. Hashem gave us a shutfus with him, a partnership with him, and the actual current itself. It means that my thoughts, my words, my actions can also help a little caterpillar and protect it from the sun. And if I say something that I shouldn't say, it could chalila, it could cause the death of something in the world. Everything that happens in the world, Akash Baruch Hu, the Tam Shileu b'Ma'as Yad, Akash Baruch Hu gave man such power. Yisoid zeh kosher l'sugya amuka ma'od shel shorish kedushas Am Yisrael. This, of course, is the sugya of where the kedusha of Am Yisrael comes from, the shorish of the kedushas Yisrael. Kedushas Yisrael. So when those who hate us are upset because we control Hollywood, we control much more than Hollywood. Hollywood is not worth a caterpillar. we control much, much, much more than how we. And they're totally right about the power that we have, but they underestimate it in a very, very absurd way. But the little bit that they somehow grasp of this is the source of the deepest, and oldest hatred in the world, which is a very remarkable and miraculous thing. The hatred of our enemies is a very remarkable thing. And instead of being hurt by it, because people get hurt by what somebody says on the news or something, or like what some politician in France or Canada or England, these things that they say, and you get hurt by it and you take it personally and you're offended by it. You should be you should feel very complimented by it. You should feel very, very inspired by the fact that there's some anti-Semite that has been able to reach just a place in his government that they made him into a prime minister, into a president, and he hates the Jewish people so much that he says things that are completely irrational, that defy any logic. Why somebody would support terrorists over a democracy defies logic. I'm not talking about a person from a terrorist. I'm talking about why a person from the Western world, who was raised on the values of democracy, why that person would be cheering for Hamas is something that defies logic. I'm not saying it's good, evil. Forget about that. It simply defies logic. It defies logic. The same way that they say how you have these gay people that they go marching in a parade in support of the Palestinians. It defies logic because everybody knows that Hamas would slit their throats. So it just defies logic. And when you tell them these things, they don't. It just doesn't register. They have all different strange ways of trying to deal with that cognitive dissonance of the truth. It's a miracle. Because what's a miracle? A miracle is something that defies the laws of nature. The hatred for us defies every law of nature. It's not something which is normal. It's not something which is natural. So instead of being offended by it, instead of being hurt by it, you should be very, very inspired to do more mitzvahs and to take yourself more seriously. To realize that these appliances don't like me because I'm the electricity that's giving them life. So all of these refrigerators and all of these air conditioners and all of these noisemakers and computers, they hate us because we're the electricity. They can't stand that. It makes them totally crazy. So they try to destroy us, and wherever they have tried to do that, they get destroyed. They get destroyed. Many years ago, I took the first trip that I went with my wife. We went with a group, not from the shul, went to Poland, and I was talking to an old guy over there. I was talking. This guy spoke fluent Yiddish. He still remembered from 80 years ago. He's an old person, must have been close to 100. And he said to me, he didn't speak any English, he spoke Polish and Yiddish. So he said to me in Yiddish that he was talking about where the Rav lived. It was some town, I don't remember which town this was, where the Rav lived, and he remembers how the Jews used to go to Tashlich. He was telling to the river, and he was talking about all these things. He was very sharp, and he was describing what it was like, and he said to me, look at what we have here. He said, ever since you left, ever since your people were taken from here, nothing. We have nothing. That's what he told me. We have nothing ever since you were taken from us. We're living in still the same mud pile. since you were taken from us. That's what he said. We have nothing. He was saying that you're people with the chiyas, this whole place. We have nothing. So it's irrational. There's a guy in Spain that wrote a whole thing about it. It's a famous thing. I once read it in shul many years ago. It's a very special thing. He wrote like an essay. How dumb the Europeans are because they destroyed themselves. They undid themselves by getting rid of the Jews. This is what happens. Can you imagine? There's a rebellion of the appliances against electricity. It's almost the same thing. Like you and I, like we're by mincha or something, and then like all the appliances are talking to each other. They said, "How much longer are we going to put up with this guy? We don't like his accent. We don't like that his religion. We don't like any of this stuff." So all the appliances are talking and say, we're done with him. So the appliances, this is like in a cartoon, right? So the appliances are going to make a milchama against the balabas. And the balabas nowadays doesn't have to even, you don't have to even go around to all the plugs. You can do it on an app or something. And the end of the rebellion. Just when you walked in, all of everything, the radio, the television, the refrigerator, they're all getting ready to jump on the guy, and he says, "What's going on over here?" The end. So they destroyed themselves. That's what the world is doing as we speak. This is what's going on. That's what the world is doing. So the Jews were thrown out of Europe. And guess who was invited in to take our place? Look who was invited to take our place. And now they don't know. Now none of them know. Now they don't know what to do. In Italy and Germany and France, the Netherlands and Denmark, they don't know what to do. The Jews were all thrown out, and then we took in their cousins, the Yishmaelim. They like to call them the cousins, and the Yishmaelim were all. And now, so instead of Jews, the Jews were killed, and the ones who are there realize it's time to get out. And who's there now? All the Free Palestine. That's who they invited in. And those Palestinians who they invited in, from Syria, not just Palestinians, especially from Syria, there were so many that came in there because the Syrians were shechting each other, although nobody was upset about Syrians that were shechting each other. Over 500,000 Arabs killed Arabs. There wasn't a word. There wasn't one protest. Not one protest anywhere in the world. 500,000 Arabs, more than 500,000 were killed by Arabs. There wasn't a word. And then those Syrians, now the Syrians are all over the place in Europe. And what are they doing? They're destroying Europe. So the Jews were kicked out, who were the Chiyas. Because Europe was a darfur, was a nothing until the Jews came there. And the Jews were all kicked out. And now the Yishmaelim were invited in, and they're kicking out the Ashkenazim. They're kicking out the Germans and the French and the English. That's what's happening. And the Jews with the electricity and this is what has happened. So now the Jews were kicked out and they invited in the Ishmaelim. But this is what makes the world crazy about us. What's not doing? What's not Mashmos of the Yesh lo shutfus betzam amshach azar machiyas and nimshach l'olam kulu yisaid zakosh l'sugim yeh kudish yisrael dvekusam b'Hashem v'kor hapula shalhem alo elam kulu. The dvekus of a Jew with Hashem and the hashpah that the Jew has over all of creation. Kashboch Rosa, which somebody who's not Jewish does not have that hashpah, cannot be mashpin Hashem. Kashboch Rosa sha'am Yisrael you shutfim imo behemshech achiyas v'hashefel olam kula. It was the will of Hashem. We don't understand. It was the will of Hashem that Am Yisrael would be shutfim with him in bringing in this electricity that's delivered to the rest of the world, that brings shefa to all of creation. Our davening, our learning, our mitzvahs, our existence, that gives shefa to all of creation. That we should from L'Kadosh Baruch Hu. We're not the picture on the screen, we're the electricity. And this is manifested in this deep sod, this secret, this mystery of Shal Mahus Haratzon Shal Am Yisrael. The Mahus, the nature, the essence of the Ratzon of the Jewish people, the Ratzon of a Jew. What that means. The difference between when you say I want and when somebody who's not Jewish says I want. What the difference is between those two I wants, or this is what I would like to do with my life. The difference between when you say that and when somebody that's not Jewish says that. It's the Ratzon of the Mahus, of the Ratzon of Am Yisrael. The Ratzon of Yisrael is bound to, is kosher l'Ratzon Eloki ha'elyon, to that higher Ratzon of Hashem, the transcendent Ratzon of Hashem. And when a Jew is miskadesh, when a person connects himself to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and he brings himself to a higher place, and he connects to that shorish of who he is. He is able to draw shefa and chiyas to all of creation, to help that little caterpillar on a hot day. So mamish to do mamshich shefa v'chiyas l'adam kula. Lachas kama v'kama, to be part of other big things in the world. Akadei adregel yonashal tzadikim, till we go to the big tzadikim. I mean, everybody has this car. Everybody who connects who connects his spark of the electricity to the generator, to the Kivyochel Hashem Yisbarach himself. The Madrega Yonat Tzadikim is that's the Madrega of Tzadikim. Shechol Livrei Olam Betzam Koach V'Tzayim. The Gemara says that the Tzadikim are able to create worlds. The Koach of their Ratzon. Of course, not Yesh Ma'ayin, not from nothing. But Tzadikim Mamish have. It says in the Gemara, Ibo Tzadike Bro Alma. Bro Alma. If Tzadikim would want to, they could create a world. Ibo Tzadike Bro Alma. Klemer, Im Tzadikim writes him. We know it's a famous thing that the Koska said. Because they were telling him about the Koyach, that there was a certain tzaddik, that there was somebody that died and the tzaddik brought back to life. And the Koska, was very hard to impress. And the Koska said, he says, I could also bring the dead back to life, but I'd rather bring the living back to life. I'd rather bring the living back to life. That's my tafkid. Bring the dead back to life is all right. Chachma, to bring the living back to life, that's something. But Klemer Tzadikim writes him, I should be koichem livrei olam. Tzadikim have the koich. For omek inyan Torah, and the omek, the depth of the inyan of Torah, which is Erev Shua, so we have the schus to talk about this. The omek inyan Torah, shebanitan biyad am Yisrael, has koach han hagish lamitzias, that Hashem gave us the Torah. You have the lonim at time, naslan the Torah samis. Chaye olam nota b'sochein. Hashem gave us the Torah, and with the Torah, we became the balabatim of a Metzias, of a creation. Advarim noigim b'shorish b'yas ha'olam. All of this goes back and touches the very root of creation. One of the reasons that was revealed to us is HaKadosh Baruch Hu created the world in order to have this shutfus with Am Yisrael. L'chein hu boras Am Yisrael im koach Eloki. So he gave a piece of himself into us. Im koach Eloki. Achelak l'kom yimal, neshama. Me'ein dugma shel Maila. Me'ein, something of that, of Kivyachal himself. Zeh soid v'tzanim she'Yisrael. This is the sod, the secret, of the rotzen of a Jew. The koch haskula ha'otzim shebehem. An unbelievable koch that a Jew has and that Am Yisrael has. And this terror and fear that the world has of us. Because they know, subconsciously, that their fate depends on us. That we could pull out the plug. And they're terrified of that. And they despise us for that. It's a nitzah, it's a spark of Ratzon Hashem. When a Jew is miskadesh, and he lifts himself up to a good place, to a big place, like a tzaddik, even without everybody, but especially, then he's mechubel Ratzon Hashem. Then that electricity is coursing through him. It's through the Torah and our connection to the Torah. Without realizing how he's doing this, he's giving life to all different kinds of appliances. Human, not human, plants, animals, all different appliances. All of creation. Hashem's work made it in such a way. Look at the foot. Let's see the footnotes. Yud Dalet. Zu Asiba. This is the reason why Shemitzanim is B'yas Adam Rosh Hashanah. We count the creation back to Rosh Hashanah. Even though we know that that's not when creation began. Vayom Lakim Hiyor, that was not on Rosh Hashanah, that was Chafei El. Av Sha'olim Hischil Yibor B'Chafei Be'el. Because Rosh Hashanah is when man was created, not when the world was created. Because the whole tachlis of creation is Adam. So Rosh Hashanah is by the creation of Adam, not the creation of the world. So that tachlis of this shutfus did not materialize until the creation of Adam and Chava. Therefore, the day of Rosh Hashanah is when we say Hayom Haras Olam. Even though what do you mean Hayom Haras Olam? The world wasn't created today. The world was created a couple of days ago on Chafei Elu. So why are you saying that today Hayom Haras Olam? Because that's when Adam was created. V'av shezu tachlisa shel Am Yisrael, u'b'vriyas ha'olam Am Yisrael terem hofia. When Hashem created the world, it wasn't yet an Am Yisrael. Oimahari. Adam Rishon kol b'seiches kol nishmas Yisrael. The Rebbe says that Adam Rishon had within him all nishmas Yisrael. So when Hashem created Adam, it's Hayom Haras Olam. The whole world was created because we were there too. We were in Adam Rishon. Lo niga kan b'sugya mugazud is a very, very big sugya. So what does it mean with the rest of creation and how does that affect? What does it mean with people who are not Jewish and so on? That's a very big sugya. But l'inyanenu, Hayom Haras Olam means when Adam was created. And Adam means that we were all in Adam. We were all part of Adam when he was created. Kan yesh lahayir, she'amnam gam l'umas ha'olam yesh b'chir chavis. So umas ha'olam goyim also have free choice. Acher Rav Kook ma'avdil ba'ofen mahusi ben ha'bechira shel ha'goyim le'bechira shel Yisrael. But Rav Kook in the third chelik of Rav Kook makes a very clear distinction between the bechira, the choice, the free choice of a goy, and lahavdil, the free choice of a Jew. Ba'amira pashtanis, to simplify, because it's a very big sugya. That's why I said we really go into this now would be to learn that whole section over there in Aris HaKodesh and much more where that comes from, which is all the Zohar Kodesh and Ari. But just simply, without going to the depths of this Inyan. The choice of Goyim takes place on the landscape within the framework of creation. The mashal, that's a very simple mashal that I heard many, many years ago, was that I don't know any science, I don't remember, just from college a little bit, high school, but the little bit I know that there's that in the atom, right, the electrons move around, they have an orbit, right? The electrons move around. And now they know even smaller things, but the electrons, neutrons, they're subatomic particles of space, so even smaller, but they move around. And they move around in the orbit in a way that appears to be completely random. And the wall of energy has to do with this. They're running around there in a way that's unpredictable. But this person who spoke about this many years ago, I heard this person speaking about it, was a religious scientist, was speaking about it. He said, but they have Bechira, but they don't have Bechira to leave the orbit. It was their pile in that chelik of Metzias that was given to them, and there are chukim, there are laws that are called the laws of nature that Hashem Zoch made, and the electron can't decide that it's moving to California. You're a New York electron. You're not a California now. You have to stay over here. You're not going over there. You can't even leave this drop of water. You can't leave this speck of dust. You can't leave this molecule. You can't go anywhere. So the animals in the natural reserve, they all run around feeling like we're the Balabatam over here. But there are people like standing outside the place, rangers with hats and with rifles and stuff, not the Balabatam. The animals are running around. They feel like we're in Altaheim over here. This is great. We're in Africa. No, you're not. You're in Iowa, and there are a couple of rangers that are in charge of you. So they don't have Bechira Chavshis. They have Bechira Chavshis in the natural reserve to run around, to do whatever they do. On the Motzei Shabbos, they can do over there. But they don't have Bechira to change that Metzias at all. Therefore, a person can do Lefi Ritzono in that Mizgeres of Metzias. Within the confines, some have bigger natural reserve, like animals have. Then you have another animal, it's a Nebuch, that it's Mazel that ended up in the Bronx Zoo. Although I never saw an animal in the Bronx Zoo. We took the kids, right? They're always in the caves. They tell you right now that they're not feeling well or something. No Chalamoy trip to the Bronx Zoo, not seeing any animals after you paid to get in. They tried talking to getting a season's pass, but none of the Jews fall for that. And then you see all the guys buying season's passes, but the Jews don't fall for that. Just the opposite. We get some kind of a family thing. We go over the family, right? We go in at a better price because this is my family. So when you're looking for an animal in the Bronx Zoo, you don't see an animal. So it's a Rachmanis. This monkey ended up in the Bronx Zoo. His cousin ended up in a natural reserve in Iowa. So his cousin's like outdoors all day. And it's a Machai, running around. The cousin's a big Baldimian. The one in the Bronx Zoo, at least he's living life that's emisdik. Because he knows, he looks at the bars, he comes out, he jumps around a little bit, and they throw him peanuts, and he says, this is Rachmanis. Look at me. And he got a letter from his cousin in Iowa, and his cousin sends him a selfie, and he's running around there. It's Mechai. It's the same story with human beings. The whole human race. So some have smaller, some it's more like a Bronx Zoo, and others is more like a natural reserve. But Benkach or Benkach, the cousin could send back and say to his cousin at Bronx Zoo, my life is much more pleasant, but the emes is at least you're not living with the demyonis that I'm stuck in. You're not living with the demyonis. I'm living in the Olam HaDimyon. The Olam HaDimyon. Which is the worst thing of all. There's a whole story that I told you once from the big tzaddik, that there was a yid that did a balagol that did him a big tayva. Some of you will remember the story. There was a balagol that did a big tayva for this tzaddik. But this balagol was filled with all kinds of averis and things, this Balaveris did a big tayva for the tzaddik, and he was most nefesh to make sure that the tzaddik would get to where he wanted to go for Shabbos. that they shouldn't get stuck someplace nowhere. And there's Balagola, who's a Balaveris. But he brought the tzaddik for Shabbos. And he was so, this Balagola, the wagon driver, was so tzibrochen from what he was doing, like crazy with that, to get there was a blizzard or something, that he died. He died before Shabbos from what because he wasn't, I guess, a healthy guy, whatever. He died, and the tzaddik wanted to be poil for him. This guy, Mamish, died to help me. So the tzaddik was very tzibrochen when he heard that he died, that the Balagola died. He felt bad. He knew he was a big Machal Shabbos, but he did me a taiva, and he wanted to get me, to do that. I shouldn't be Machal Shabbos. That I should have a Shabbos. So the tzaddik, the whole Shabbos, was working to help this guy, to be poil something for him. And then after Havdalah, the tzaddik was very much besimcha, and he said, I was able to be poil for him. I was able to be poil for him. It took a whole Shabbos that he was handling, his tzaddik with the Kadosh Baruch Hu, whatever. I was able to be poil for him, to get him out of Gehenna. Then he's not going to be in Gehenna. That was the din. I got him off the hook. He's not going to be in Gehenna. So, but I was only able to be poiled from to get him to another place that's called Olam Hadimyan. And in the Olam Hadimyan, the wagon driver sees himself as sitting in a very, very fancy wagon with plush seats and always having customers and having the best horses in Poland and going on a paved road in Poland somewhere. That's where he is right now. Not in Poland. He's in the Olam Hadimyan. But he imagines himself to be having, he's had a full bottle of schnapps always, 2 gewaldige horses, a beautiful wagon, and customers. And but he's not in Gehenna. I got him to this place called Olam Hadimyan.
You didn't help him.
Huh?
You didn't help him.
It's worse.
Yeah.
In a certain way. In a certain way, it's worse. And that's what the shmuz that he gave about that was that he was besimcha, he was able to get him out of the tsaras, but then he spoke about how, but I couldn't get him now, and not yet, I couldn't bring him back. He has to have a tikkun. Whatever, not a tikkun with the schnapps. He has to have a tikkun. and to get him out, somehow to get him out from the Olam Hadimyan. But he felt good that he was able to be poil to take him out from the tsaras. So he got him to the Olam Hadimyan. But it's an Olam Hadimyan. So you hear a story like that, and maybe you stop and think for a moment, maybe that we're in the Olam Hadimyan. Maybe. It's Olam Hadimyan. So that's a Metzias. That Olam Hadimyan is a much broader Metzias. It's a much more comfortable Metzias. But like Chaim just said, but really, that's not the answer. But that's the best that the rest of creation. Remember, all of creation are nivraim, and a nivra is stuck in a seder of hishtalshalos. But a nishmas Yisrael is not. We are biologically. So also, if you go outside and it's cold and you're not wearing a coat, you can get a cold, God forbid. Yeah, we're subjected to the world. But in terms of bechira, it's a different thing. That's what he's explaining. Ha'adam yochel lifol ki etzonu b'sochim esgeres ha'metzias l'shtamish b'chuki ha'teva b'chol ma shekayim ba'olam. Akidei kach, that this guy could even make a computer that has artificial intelligence. He can make such a thing. He can build a computer. Achu kovel u'mugbal l'chukim elu. But somebody who's not Jewish is still bound and chained to the chukim of this world, to the seder of creation. Ve'eni yochel lachrek mehem. And just like the electron cannot get out of its orbit, and the animal can't get off the reserve, so too with this person who's not a Ben Yisrael. Ein bekoach b'nei adam l'shanus esidrei hateva v'chukis hametzias. They can't make changes in the world. They can't split the seas, the ocean. They can't bring the dead back to life. They can't change the chukim that Hashem made in the world. But the bechira of a Jew reaches the etzem of creation, the kimshel, the very existence of the world and all the worlds. Am Yisrael yochel livra olam ha'koyche. Am Yisrael can create worlds. It's an unbelievable responsibility. Yochel gam lahachriv v'sayim. The responsibility is that we could also destroy worlds. When the Zohar Kodesh speaks about what happens when a person talks in shul, the churban that a person is making in the world, the devastation that he brings into the world when he talks, when he says a word during davening. That's not davening. That's not make believe. It's something that's happening. Achur. Because a Jew has the ability to stop the electricity from flowing. All who exist in this world, all others who exist, they have to abide by the rules and regulations that are on the film, by the filmmaker, by the projectionist. But a Jew has the ability to decide whether the movie should be playing or not. That's why the Goyim hate us.
Could you say that again?
That a Jew has the choice whether the non-Jew is a figure that's on the film, in the film, on the screen. The Jew is the one who has who's with the projector, and therefore, the Jew has the choice of whether the movie is going to play or it's not going to play. That's the choice that we have, and the choices that we make with our keeping mitzvahs, with our davening, or making poor decisions, not to do the right things. So we don't know where we pulled out the plug, but we pulled out the plug. If we did something we shouldn't do, we don't know how we pulled out the plug, or what we've done to that some appliance somewhere. We don't know. But it's the question of whether or not it's going to be playing or not. So you could understand why there's such a fierce hatred for us. That the hatred of the film for the one who's in control of the projector could turn it off at any second, or to change the reel, change the film, to edit, to splice, to cut out a piece of the film. Habechira, Rav Kook says, Habechira b'milua liyisrael hi nesuna. Bechira b'miluah. Bechira in all of its fullness is only liyisrael hi nesuna. It was given only to Am Yisrael. Only Am Yisrael has Bechira b'miluah. In all of its fullness and all of what it is, only Yisrael has it. We should be good balabatim and good projectionists that take care of what we're doing in our lives. Good Shabbos.